experience is very important to any company, but not at the expense of culture and
True.
camaraderie, right? And
Hi, I'm Michelle, owner of Lively House, an interior design studio passionate about making casual living beautiful. I'm a desert dweller, a mom to 2 lively kids, and now the podcast host of Conversations Over Coffee. With this podcast, I wanted to make a space for all types of conversations: business, design, health, and lifestyle. Anything goes here. I believe that our own personal stories might motivate and completely transform another story simply as they engage in the conversation. I'll be inviting guests on who will bring a new perspective to your life and mine. There is so much to gather and grow from one another. I cannot wait for us to do it here together. So whether you're listening while taking your daily commute to work or sipping coffee at your favorite local spot, get ready to dig into the real stuff, because this is Conversations Over Coffee. Brad Leavitt is here with us on the podcast today. Brad is an award-winning general contractor in the Valley and someone whose work I'm thoroughly impressed by. His spirit of entrepreneurship and the way he has stewarded each of his projects has brought him some incredible career opportunities. Tune in to this episode to find out more about AFT Construction and the hard work Brad Leavitt has put in to make it so successful.
Okay, so we have Brad Leavitt here on the podcast, award-winning general contractor with AFT Construction. Before even getting to know you, I've really admired your work from afar for a really long time. So I feel really honored to sit down and have this conversation with you.
well, thanks, Michelle. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, well, you don't drink coffee.
I don't, so pretty easy to get just some water.
Yeah, I find that very foreign to me when people come in and they say, I don't drink coffee. So how do you get your energy?
That's a good question. I'm not an energy drink guy either. Especially
but you do have energy.
I do have energy. I don't know. I just, I know we were talking about before getting on the episode, you asked about my heritage side. It's funny because my mom, I mean, to this day, sleeps like 5 hours a night. Like my whole life, she's been that way, and I've been the same.
Yeah.
So she's just like highly functioning, ton of energy without any like fuel behind it, Yeah. So I think I just am a pretty high energetic person, and I'm an early morning guy, so I just wake up and tend to have a lot of energy. I've just always been that way.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm in construction and we're up early. I don't know.
Always,
but I don't need like a get up and go. Like I'm usually up and ready. So which is kind of weird.
Probably a healthier habit. Yeah. Okay. So before we get into some of the meat of this conversation, I want to know how you got started and why you got started in construction.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of interesting, as a kid, I grew up in construction. So I grew up as an electrician. Well, take that back. My grandfather was in the Navy, retired in San Diego, started an electrical company. He had 6 boys. My dad was the youngest. So I grew up watching my dad and uncles and grandfather work with their hands and do all the trades. I mean, they were electricians by trade, but they would go re-roof their house. So the brothers would come and they'd re-roof the house, and they'd do drywall and they'd do additions. I remember when I was in elementary school, my dad, and I've never shared this story on any podcast, but my dad had bought my grandfather's house. So the house that my grandfather built, when I was 5 in kindergarten, we moved there. So my dad bought his dad, the house he grew up in.
Wait, and where's this at?
San Diego.
San Diego.
In San Diego. So they're in San Diego, just 7 miles east of downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
And you could see Tijuana, Mexico from our house. Like a pretty cool, awesome place to grow up, right, as a kid. But the house was pretty small. I think it was only maybe 1,500 square feet, kind of old Rambler back in the 50s. And I, at the time, let me think, my parents had 4 kids. They were going to have 6, but they had 4 at the time. So they added on. And so I remember them adding on, and it was just different back then. They didn't hire a contractor.
Right. It was all
they
them.
did. My dad, his twin brother, his brothers, they, formed, they did the foundation, they framed it, they drywalled it, they did plumbing. I mean, everything. That's what they did. So I just kind of grew up watching that, participating a little bit, not a whole lot, because, I wanted to play with my friends, like most kids. But I was fortunate to work for my grandfather's company through high school and after high school. And so I kind of grew a love for the trades.
Yeah.
But realized, even though we were working on amazing projects in Coronado and Rancho Santa Fe and La Jolla and these amazing parts of San Diego, I wanted to build like these luxury homes. And so I ended up going to college. I did construction management up at BYU. So I went to Utah, did college, and then moved to Phoenix and worked for a builder doing projects around here. One of the signature projects I worked on was Omni Monte Lucia in Paradise Valley.
Yeah, what a feat.
Yeah, and then after that, I started my company. So it's kind of been a journey, I think, like most of us that, end up where we are.
Yeah. What do you feel like if you didn't get into construction, what would you have gone into, you feel like?
Oh, for sure, I'd be in finance. Yeah, so I was actually going to go back and get my MBA. I took the GMAT.
Yeah.
And I was going to go back to grad school in 2011, and then just some life changes happened at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up starting AFT, and I never made it to grad school. But even when I went to college, before declaring construction management as my Bachelor of Science degree, I was actually taking business classes at the Marriott School of Business. The Marriotts have a business school there. And so business to me has always been a passion. Finance has become more of a passion now, owning my company. But I would definitely do something. I'm a much more of a numbers guy, so I'd probably do numbers.
Yeah.
Of some sort.
Oh, that's all good. I always feel like even our like past what we wanted to do and what we're not doing now, I still feel like leads to exactly where we're at. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, your love for finance or your passion for finance, your curiosity for it has all led to you and helping you within your own company.
Yeah, it has to, because as you think about, I always say what I've learned now is that, even though I have a construction business and Michelle, you have a design business. I mean, at the core of it, you're a business owner that happens to focus in design, and I happen to focus in construction.
Yeah.
And it's just something that we have to understand in any entrepreneurship role, is to really understand the business aspect. And if you can understand, tax, if you can understand financials and balance sheet and income statements and, all these, the EBITDA that we're tracking, for the value of the business. And, these are really important aspects to be a really good business owners. And then it allows us, by knowing the business, to better educate clients on the process of building and designing, and educate our trade partners, and then find efficiencies and processes to be essentially, better at our profession than we normally would be. Because, you always hear that like someone's a great dentist or a great framer, but they're not a good business owner.
Yes.
And that's the hard aspect of it, right? Doing both.
Well, I don't feel like when you step or you think about owning your own business, you romanticize about what you'll be doing, and you don't think about all of the logistics and every day of what it takes to run a business. And I feel like that's such a misconception of like, there's no handbook someone's given out that says, okay, don't forget about process. Don't forget about systems. Don't forget about accounting.
It's hard too, because like you're a craftsman, right? If you're a dentist, you're a craftsman and you're working with your hands. And if you're a doctor and, as a designer, you're very creative. And a lot of us, and it's just not even, our brains, like some of us are more like logical. I shouldn't say logical, but more like formulaic, with numbers, and some are more creative, right?
Yes.
So it's like a totally different brain side. And so you're trying to, one of us leans to the more creative side. It is a challenge. And that's where it's really important. Okay, are there certain elements that I can't perform at a high level, or do I need to subcontract that out or hire that out, or, how do we alleviate that so that we can still be an efficient business? Yeah.
So out of curiosity, what's the difference in terms from a general contractor and a builder?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say in general contractor would be, you can hear other terms like a paper contractor, but a general contractor.
I've never heard of this one.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay.
Educate me.
So paper contractor, general contractor is typically somebody that is subcontracting all of their work.
Okay.
Right. And it could be levels of scale on size of the company, but a true general, like a commercial general contractor, residential, they're bidding out all the framing. They don't have their own framers on staff, right?
Okay.
They don't have their own plumbers, so they're subcontracting a plumbing company.
Okay.
So they're essentially coordinating and managing the entire build process, all the risk, all the insurance certs, the permit inspections, the quality. They're managing the entire build process through the subcontractors and suppliers that they're contracting. In general terms, some GCs say builder, but in my opinion, a builder would be someone who is traditionally has bags on. So they may sub out the framing, but they're self-performing the trim carpentry. And they may sub out the tile work, but they're doing the paint. So they're self-performing some of it. So a builder would be someone who's probably a little bit more hands-on from, just a management and build side, whereas a general contractor is typically, and maybe I look at economies of scale. Most people that I would consider a general contractor are doing either big projects, complex projects, especially in commercial. As you look at commercial, these are hospital, stadium. I mean, you're going to have a general. There's so much detail that you can't just self-perform, every detail of those big projects.
And so I always refer to you as a builder, but you're a general contractor technically.
Yeah, technically I would consider myself a general contractor because
do you want to be a builder? Like, does one want to take that ownership of being considered a builder to have all that on staff?
Well, I think there has to be some strategy. I mean, this goes back to the business conversation is you really have to understand what are the projects that I want to pursue.
Yeah.
And for me, the projects that I want to pursue and be doing, I can't do based on my definition as a builder. And the reason being is, here's a good example. We finished in the National Home of the Year Pro Builder, which is net zero energy efficient home.
Yeah.
Now,
amazing.
4,000 square feet. So it's 3,800. It's not a huge build.
Yeah.
It's a very technical and complicated build. But then at the same time, I'm doing 2 properties side by side that are 60,000 square feet. Right. And then I have one in Gilbert that's 20,000. And then I have one in Scottsdale that's 6,000. That's ICF and structural steel. And where I'm getting at is that we have these complex projects around town that vary in size and scope. It'd be really hard for me to I consider myself a builder, but like the builder terminology, if you will, I don't have any interest of trying to self-perform drywall or framing, because how can I ramp up crews to frame a 60,000 square foot house
simultaneously?
Simultaneously. And then at the same time service other builds at the same stage of construction.
Yeah.
And go do a net zero house at 3,800 square feet.
Right.
It's really hard, that crossover. So I consider myself more of a general contractor and maybe as I'm bidding against a builder on a project and I'm giving my sales pitch to the client, my sales pitch is that I'm not just positioned to one company or one person. We have a system, we have an organization, we have people behind us. We have technology, we have platforms that we're using.
A community.
Yeah. And so if God forsake I go down, the Titanic's still going. Titanic's not a good example, but the ship is still moving. So the ship, the freight train, whatever it is still going despite one person, because we have a system and protocol and organization and SOP all in place. And so that's the differentiator, but in fairness, when clients are asking, and there's many projects I've won because the clients understand they're getting a team, they have an operation, there's a system. At the same token, I know of a project specifically I lost because the client wanted that person, that builder, they wanted Brad Leavitt to be the builder that's there every day doing their house. And they hired a really small pickup truck contractor that's kind of a one-man band that self-performs a lot of it. And hey, that's great. The clients that I tend to work for want an operation because they know that they're going to have, the meat behind it to get their project done. So
yeah. I mean, you're touching base on a lot of amazing projects that you're doing currently. I want to go back maybe a few more years back and just talk me through some of the risks of as you got started and some of those challenges that you faced that you kept going despite them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges and risks that we take as contractors and a lot that I've taken. part of the growth, there's no question. I think leading up to like the projects we have now, it's not like I was doing that to start, right? So
Yeah.
I think like most of us, I was doing a powder bathroom. I was doing a deck.
Yeah.
I'm doing an addition. I'm doing a kitchen renovation.
Although you got started.
Yeah. So like I had the skill set doing Monte Lucia and some pretty complex projects.
Yeah.
In my career, but starting AFT, we didn't have a resume. We're a new company. And
that's a huge risk and leap of faith of being like, all right, I'm going to go out on my own.
It was hard.
Scary. Were you ever like, did you always know you were going to own your own business?
No. I think entrepreneurships are either born or forced into it, right?
And you are?
And I'm forced into it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was, and it's funny because my grandfather was an entrepreneur, some of my uncles are, but I never consider myself like starting my own company. I always assume I'll work for somebody. Like I just did. And I don't know if I really gave it a ton of thought. Maybe it's because immediately in my home, my dad, he worked as a union electrician for the same company for 35 years, which is super rare.
Yeah.
He worked for them for 35 years, retired early. And, he ended up leaving San Diego and moving to Phoenix with us. But I digress. But anyways, he worked for the same company. So maybe because I had seen that model, I was kind of more accustomed to that. But going back to your question, the risk side is interesting because I don't think I fully understood the risk of owning my company, especially in construction. And, not just from a safety where people could actually die on a job site and there's that, injured.
No one thinks about that.
They don't think about that. And you have to be very cautious how your job sites are. But then also litigation or warranty or, products that fail over time, mold, all these things that we're dealing with. And so there's a lot that we've had to essentially just understand about our business to better serve our clients.
After the project has been completed.
Yeah.
Even
because your tail's really long. Every house you build as a builder, like we have an analogy to your tail gets longer because you're building more. And so that tail gets long and you just have more exposure because you're on the hook for 5, 7, 10 years on so many different aspects of the build.
I often talk about failures because I do feel like while those as a business owner carry so much weight to us. Well, first going back to like you just starting your own business, I think takes some naiveness to starting your own business. The more too much research and too much knowing of what it takes, I feel like sometimes holds one back. Mm-hmm. But jumping into it with a little bit of naiveness, like, okay, I can step forward and we can do this and figure this out as we go, are the ones that end up propelling and starting off. So I commend you for your courage for that.
Oh, thanks. You too.
Yeah. But sorry, I digress. But now going back to what I wanted to know, like what was some of your earlier failures that you feel like you learned the most from?
Yeah, I think we could probably spend the whole podcast on failures. That'd be pretty easy. But I think there's a few. I mean, hiring was a big part, right? Yeah. I think early on, you're looking to hire people that are the most experienced at their position and role without understanding that experience is very important to any company, but not at the expense of culture and camaraderie, right? And so I had someone that was a horrible team player, but very experienced in construction and is very toxic and not terminating that employee sooner. And I've learned over the years, especially as you work with business owners and speak to them, that hire slow, fire fast. But the minute you have a culture killer, you fire them quickly. And because you have to guard culture, that's everything. So of course that's an easy one. Building side, I think not knowing my business, not understanding what it costs to build a home. And I don't mean so much of telling the client, hey, your house is going to be $1 million to build it. It's more not understanding what it costs me to build it, right? Over the year and a half of construction and supervision and overhead costs and operating my business and staying in business so I can warranty and serve the client years to come. Yeah. Too many jobs I did and lost money because I didn't understand my true cost to run the business. Yeah. I did understand because I had experience before what it costs to do drywall or costs to do plumbing or framing. I just didn't understand the overhead aspect.
And how long, when you got started, how long do you think that process took for you to fully get it?
Oh, it took at least 7 years, which is shocking.
That's a shocking number.
Yeah.
And people, I think, need to hear that because they often, I feel like, think like, okay, year one, I myself am included in that category. I'm like, year one, year two, like I should be at this level. I should be at this experience. And when you're not, you have to surrender to that process.
Yeah. And to clarify, I think I would say that a couple years in, quickly you figure out, okay, I'm not charging or getting what I need to cover my overhead. And here's what we're looking at. That happens pretty quick. But to your point, 7 years is really, for me, for my business, I think for a lot of companies, do you really understand a couple things? Not only what it costs, every aspect of your business, and to have those KPIs, right? The key performance indicators to understand the metrics, but also have a portfolio and product base where you could charge accordingly for the value you bring. So that it always seems to be a magic number, that 5 to 10 years where there's this balance of we're offering a ton of value to the customer, and at the same time, we're being paid for that value.
Yeah.
And it offsets on overhead. And we kind of find that happy balance where now, we're a little bit more of a thriving business as opposed to, keeping our head above water.
Was there ever a point up until now that you were like, I don't know, I'm not going to do that. I can't do this.
Yeah, it's, I think in fairness, all of us have probably had certain experience with clients, right? That you're just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I help, but I'm not the help kind of thing. It's like you kind of, it's pretty tough to distinguish, kind of how some people will treat you in the service industry. And that's any industry, right? And there's a lot of risk. And, but I think there was a time, again, going back to 7 years, about 5 or 6 years, I remember working on these really complex projects, high profile clients. Construction is a really tough industry. You're dealing with a lot of factors. You're dealing with a lot of layers, suppliers, trades, skill set that's not there, labor force that's not there. And I remember thinking, can people do this and make a good living? Like, can they really do this? Like, how are people in business doing this?
And thriving.
And thriving, right? And then you realize, well, okay, are we finding the ideal customer? Do we have processes? Do we have the right people on the team? Do we have the right people on the bus? Are they in the right seat on the bus? And there's all these business elements. It's like, okay, well, now let's focus on the business. And over the last 3 years, because we've been in business 10 and a half now, the transformation, I look at where we are January of this year to now. I mean, it's amazing. I was just meeting with my leadership team just this year.
Yeah.
And part of that's because, just not to be long-winded, but we had our Builder 20. So I'm part of like a 20 builders around the country. We share financials and business ideas and, how we do charge cost plus and all these things to be better builders, right? To have a better system. And we do what's called a SWOT, which is, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So 5 of my builders flew out from Boston and California and Connecticut and South Carolina and Utah. Those were the 5 areas. Came to Scottsdale and they interviewed every employee. They interviewed clients. They interviewed trades, designers, architects, and walked jobs, went through my financials and sat down with me. I wasn't in these meetings. They interviewed every employee with me off the record, and essentially sat down with me with an analysis saying, okay, Brad, here's our synopsis. Here's our, thesis of where you are and what you need to change.
Wow. Whoa.
3 days.
Hold on. This is a really what made you think to do this?
Well, what's pretty cool about the Builder 20 is they do this SWOT thing. And so the group I'm in hadn't done one in a long time. So I rose my hand and said, hey, I want to have a SWOT. And I picked 5 of them and said, I want you to fly out in January. And right after the holidays, second week of January, they flew to Scottsdale. And they were in my conference room, no kidding, from 7:30 a.m. till 7:30 p.m. 2 days, 12 hours each day. And then the third day, you go through the recap. And they hammered it out. They went through it. And what's amazing about that meeting is so you have 5 experts essentially auditing your business who have done this for a long time.
To me, that's like You're going
It's
in
cool.
vulnerable. You're
Yeah,
going in a little
it's
bit
super
naked.
vulnerable.
Someone's coming in.
Yeah, because you have employees saying, well, Brad does this or does this and
Yeah.
management style. And so you're getting all this feedback, which is great because I realized we had the right people on the bus, wrong seat. So
Okay.
we changed roles, created new roles.
Yeah.
I've hired 7 people since that date. So we have 7 new people that have started with AFT since then. So now I look at our company going into 2024 and I'm like, we are positioned better than we've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Systems, organization, process, formulas, like our team's dialed in.
Yeah.
And it's pretty neat to hear like designers and architects, like now the feedback, they're like, and the trades too, clients too, like the feedback's been incredible. So
do you feel like as like a pro tip to any business owner, because that they can apply that to any kind of category that they own or run, when do you feel like that's a really good mark to dissect your business?
I think for me, it would have been like now was a good time, but I think at 3-4 years, once you've had a little bit of, once you understand a little bit more about cost and budgeting and timing and stuff, but heck, you could do it sooner. I mean, Michelle, you should go do one. Like,
yeah, I know.
But the thing is, designers, I know
intimidating.
photographers that do it. I know people in the, auto part industry that do it. That's actually the Build a 20 started based on what they do in the auto industry, which is kind of interesting. And so just where you can take mentors and photographers, I know specifically do it on how they work with usage rights and sessions and cost and, all the aspects of copyright and all these things they do. But there's just elements to any business that it's really nice when you have another designer that's been a designer to come and say, okay, Michelle, this is great. This is wrong. This is great. This is wrong. And essentially, here's your opportunity to maximize your brand. Here's the threat because you're overlooking this, red light blinking that you need to address right away. So,
well, I think it also takes somebody who's open-minded, right? To come in and get some, helpful criticism in there. I think, well, to want it, you already have to be open-minded. But I really do think that, and you need to be action-oriented because once you get this feedback, now what are you going to do with it?
That is a really good point you just made because the ego is super important. I mean, ideally, if you want to be a good business owner, you got to take the ego aside and realize that
you learned
there
that
are
quickly.
better methods. Yeah.
I feel like I learned that year one, maybe
some people
project
do, some
one.
don't, yeah.
I was like, oh God.
Yeah, you learn quickly, but the ability to take action, so many of us will attend a leadership seminar, motivational speaker, and you come out all energized.
Yeah.
And then the implementation doesn't take place. And that's where that investment or the time that you've given is almost a waste because you're not willing to take action and implement.
Which I feel like I see, following you on social, I feel like I see you do a lot of that leadership in conferences. Has that always been a drive in you, that growth mindset?
It has. Yeah. I find so much value for a lot of reasons. I think with a lot of these conferences, I attend a lot. I speak at a lot.
That's really awesome.
But I find value because it's funny, I was at a LinkedIn conference in New York like 4 years ago. And one of the ladies there in the healthcare industry said, personal branding is permanent job security. And that always stuck with me because essentially at the core of it, for me, my brand AFT, I can't feasibly go build all over the country. It's, I don't have a sub base. I don't have suppliers. There's logistics there that make it difficult. Designers and architects have a little bit more creativity to do that. As a builder, it's unless you have brick and mortar and you're there and it can be tough. So, however, we're in a great dynamic market in Scottsdale and Phoenix. So even when I'm speaking in Orlando or New York, the brand recognition of people that understand AFT and our commitment to be better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow, you're going to build, I always say silent salesmen, right? People that sell your brand, not on your payroll. Ideally, you want all these people that are advocates of the brand and the product that you represent, and you don't pay them because they're just speaking they're speaking your praises, if you will. And what that leads to is that people that understand our brand nationally and locally so that we get ideal clients that reach out. So, and more importantly, not just the networking, not just the branding. I think there's just so much I can gain and have gained from other business owners inside and outside of construction that I can now take action, sit down with my leadership team and implement in our company.
Yeah, I feel like ongoing education and ongoing business, not even just with specific to our industry, but just that continuous growth of education is what makes a strong business owner and leader.
It has to. I mean, think market, technology, social media, AI. I mean, it's changing so fast.
Yeah.
And not everything's applicable to you and I, but some of it is. And how can we utilize technology and information and products that are out there to better our business or essentially elevate us to our competition, right? The building science is a great example. We did the net zero home. We have other net zero product doing homes that are sustainable.
Well, explain to me, what is that?
Yeah,
exactly?
So net zero means a house that produces as much energy as it consumes. So
different from LEED?
Yeah, much different. So net zero means truly at the end of the year, the house will produce as much energy through solar. Solar is a good example because the house we did has solar. So it'll produce as much solar as it needs to run the washer and the pool pump and the air conditioners. And so over the year, that is net zero, which means it's zero energy bill. The reason being is like you look at the house, very different than most traditional homes. Windows are triple pane glass. Mm-hmm. So they're thicker. The energy efficiency of the glass that we put in the house is equivalent to like a 2x4 insulated wall. So you put in glass, it's, because most of us lose energy through glass.
Yep.
Like that's your biggest energy loss.
That's the first thing people want to upgrade in the home when they think about like energy efficiency.
Yeah, is doing the windows,
doing
right?
The windows.
But it's even bigger than that. You think about like thermal breaks, which means like if you have concrete or steel where I think here in the summer it's really hot.
Yeah.
If you have concrete, if like the edge of your slab or stem wall, if that sun is beating on it, it's going to carry that heat transfer into the house, and now you have hot spots, right? Or you're missing insulation, and metal's a good one because the heat can hit the metal and then come through the other side into the house. So you're creating these bridges, which thermal bridges, which you're trying to eliminate those, and you're creating like a Yeti cooler. Like Yeti coolers are known for high quality; they're pretty expensive, but that's essentially what you're taking to building. It's creating an envelope now that the energy loss is really minimal. Mm-hmm. So even if the power's out, the house can stay comfortable despite the outside temperature, so that you just need a little bit of solar or something to offset that to run the pump.
And is that just to get your house that way is going to cost you more? I want to get into like some builder or trends here that you're starting to build more of.
Yeah, so that's a big part is people wanting more energy efficient. So we're doing a lot of ICF, which is insulated concrete form.
Okay.
So the walls, instead of traditional wood framing, would be styrofoam, concrete, styrofoam. They're like Lego blocks that we fill with concrete. We're going to be building our own personal house, and we break ground in April, and it's going to be ICF and net zero. So we're doing in sustainability, which is customers are asking. So when you think about sustainability, if I were to source locally here in Arizona for the stone, so you think about all the work to get stone and chisel it and go through the manufacturing process of the quarry and then ship it to my site. If something's shipping from Flagstaff as opposed to maybe Turkey, like there is a carbon footprint there, right? To get a lot of stone from Turkey to Scottsdale is a lot of work. And so clients are looking at, can I source locally, let more sustainable products. Yeah. LP is a company we're working with, and they're doing a lot of, sustainable products that hit these carbon neutral metrics. And so carbon's a big thing. And so, I think design trends always change.
Yeah. Tell me what you're seeing, because these homes, if they haven't seen them already, just go to AFT on Instagram and beautiful portfolio.
Yeah, it's really fun. But so we're seeing clients that, the pandemic changed a lot because once things were shut down and you can't travel and you can't go to school, people are like, okay, well, if this happens again, I'm going to have my little resort, or they're going to have 2 offices so their kids can be in there doing schoolwork, and the mom and dad or spouses can be in the other one. And so
change the way we lived and build. Apparently.
And they're seeing that like rooms are typically smaller because they don't want the kids just hiding out in their rooms, but the living areas are bigger. So like smaller bedrooms. So the kids are more prone to come out, and then they have bigger, great rooms and entertaining areas and indoor outdoor living, which Phoenix is great for indoor outdoor living. So we're kind of spoiled unlike, Minnesota or other parts where not only the weather, where it's can be predominantly cold, and so they can't have these massive sliders. But they also have, the bug issue, like in the summers when all the bugs are out, and we don't have that as much in Phoenix. And so,
well, but we do have.
We have some, but it's definitely not like Kansas City.
You're hiding some of that because that's okay.
Well, anyone that's lived that knows, like in the Midwest or like mountain areas, when you talk about just the amount of gnats and mosquitoes, and it's different. We don't have like as many mosquitoes here, or like, yes, on the ground we have critters and we have.
Not nearly.
But not literally.
Actually, I always look forward to wintertime because I feel like everyone, or, summertime too, actually. Our summer, there's a lot that doesn't survive here. Yeah. So I get happy around those times.
Yeah, and the thing about Phoenix, I mean, if you treat, again, not to sidetrack this, but I mean, you can treat a lot of the normal pests, if you will, like rodents and stuff, and then some of the big ones stay away. Now, if you're in Scottsdale, it's different because it's natural desert, but, other parts of, PV, Arcadia, Gilbert, Chandler, farmland's a little bit different. So.
Yeah. So one question I feel like I get often asked by clients and actually just my community in general, and they always ask me construction questions or builder questions. And I'm like, I'm just the designer sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's all I want to wear, the hat sometimes. But are we seeing more new builds or remodels right now? And what do you forecast for 2024?
Yeah,
in your
I
opinion?
think we're going to continue to see a really healthy remodel market. A lot. Yeah. And the reason being, there's a big reason. I mean, I've attended quite a few like industry and financial forecast stuff. The problem is a lot of people have really low interest rates on their house.
Yeah.
So the market's pretty stagnant where, I have an interest rate at 3%. So what am I going to do? Go sell my house just to go have an 8% loan?
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep it. And a lot of people like the area they're in, the school district, kids are there.
Yeah.
So they're like, let's just change the house. So remodels will continue to be healthy because people still have equity. Mm-hmm. Like most people have equity despite the market is what it is. If they bought their house in 2018, 2019, their house is worth more today and they have a low interest rate. So as long as they have the capital, they're going to do a remodel. With new builds, you're gonna continue to see a lot of new construction, especially in our market, Phoenix. There's been a lot of tech moving here, a lot of jobs. Mm-hmm. It's a great destination. It's a great place to, especially people that are, at a level in life where they can live in multiple states.
We're running out of space though. So where do you see a lot more new construction happening?
Well, we see a lot of teardowns. I mean,
the
problem with Phoenix, just being open as a builder, is that a lot of homes were built terrible.
Yeah.
Like the construction here from honestly 60s to like 2010 was so bad.
Sometimes comical when you go in there.
It's really bad. Like I go through homes and it's like, if they built this type of construction in Portland or Austin where there's humidity, like there'd be mold everywhere. Like you have windows set without flashing that aren't waterproofed because the framers would set the window. In the 90s, they were putting up all these houses and framers put the windows in. Yeah. Well, now we have third party come in and or the window company, and they're flashing and doing it properly so you don't have water coming through the windows. So where I'm getting at is, so we have quite a few new builds where we're demoing a house that was poorly constructed.
And you call those tear down.
Tear down.
Yeah, tear down. Those, yeah.
So a lot of infill, tear down, maybe a big renovation where they're taking it down to a wall or something.
Okay, another question often asked, which one's more expensive?
Oh, it's always more expensive to build new. Always. Just like if you go buy a car, if you go buy a used car, new car, new car is always going to be more. However, here's the trade-off. Like new is always more, but you get what you want. And the warranty's there, and it's fresh and it's clean, and no one's used it, and you have all the amenities. Now, don't get me wrong, as you and I know, remodels can almost be as close as new, or the same price. Yeah. Maybe even exceed it, depending on how complicated. We had a build where it was neck and neck, and so the client decided to,
when you evaluated it.
Yeah, because the reason being is that the existing truss structure was so. This is a house with 8-foot ceilings all the way across the house. So to rip off the roof and rebuild it and redo footings, it's like at this point, let's start fresh. Yeah. And so, but yeah, new is always more expensive and the process is always longer than just moving into a house, but you're going to get a product that's way better. And what's tough about just buying specs is typically specs are done with investors. And so there's margin in there for their profit and risk. And they're typically going to put product that's, sub tier because they're trying to hit a number.
Yeah.
So you're typically better off going through the process, buying land, doing your own build, and you can get more bang for the buck for sure.
Which one would you rather do more of? New build or remodel?
It's funny. I know you and I talked about this. I really love the remodel. I mean, I do love it.
Why?
Now, listen, I love the challenge of them. However, I know you're laughing, but the realistic aspect of them is they are really hard to do in our format.
Yes.
And I think I mentioned that because with trades, suppliers, timelines, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Because I love, to that point, I love commercial. And I started out doing a ton. We did a lot of commercial. Like we did breweries in town. We've done dental offices. We've done ground up, shopping centers. We did a lot of that at AFT when we first started. Mm-hmm. And I love that. But it's kind of the same thing to the remodel. It's fast paced. It's deadlines. In commercial, there's LDs, liquidated damages. And so for that, our business model makes a lot more sense on the custom new build. And the remodels I do like, the reason being because it is fast like commercial. Like you're doing a remodel in like 8 months.
I was just going to ask you, what's your typical time frame? Given sort of the size of the home matters.
Yeah.
But what's the time frame between
Most
the two?
Most are 8 to 12 months for a remodel. So to me, it's fast, like 8 to 12 months. Most of my new builds are 2 years, 2.5 years. And so the process is so much slower and it's, there's a lot more emotion involved and there's a lot of detail. And so they're very different. But I know you smile just because it's kind of contradicting.
Because you know what my answer would be. New construction all the time because in remodels, you just don't know what you're getting into. You don't know. And you uncover, once you start, so many more challenges that you weren't anticipating.
And as, being like builder hands-on, it's kind of fun to get creative and figure out how you can take the before and afters are so fun on remodels. Seeing them before and after.
You're right.
Yeah. And so that's pretty fun to say, look what this was and look what it became. And so that part is so with the new build, it's just, you can do whatever you want.
The creativity is endless at that point.
You're not limited with the exception of budget typically.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Okay. So what is it like for a client to come into you and want to do a new build with you or remodel? What is that process like for you?
Yeah. So we're building for a client the second time right now. And the first time they had said, AFT's saving marriages one house at a time. So we use that tagline and one of our clients has it on his truck, saving marriages one house at a time. So, and on my website, it says live like you're on vacation, right? So ideally we really want the process to be, you're coming to us, we're the guide. We're going to coordinate this entire process for you. Mm-hmm. So that you can focus on family and business and whatever you have. And you shouldn't have to stress about your house because you're hiring a builder that is going to give you more the red carpet, white glove service that understands, that has processes so that build experience, that customer map, that customer experience is ideal for you. So that's what we're trying to do. And the way we do that is the relationship with our designers and architects, making decisions early, budgeting correctly, pricing correctly, having decisions done. And then during the process, one good example is every Friday, on every project we have, every Friday, my clients, we have a group text and the designer, architect, client, builder, and if there's an owner's rep or someone else who needs to be on it. But typically it's those 4 parties and there's about 10 to 15 people on this group text and my super goes and does a video. Like a 2-3 minute video. Yeah. And it'll be, here's what took place this week. Here's what's upcoming.
That's nice.
They're really personal with the design team.
Yeah.
So the designer gets an update every week of their project and the client gets one. And it's really neat because sometimes the designers will notice something offline, call my super. They figured out, crisis averted. Yeah. But at the same time, it's just more communication. So.
And so for the client coming to you, do they have to come to you with a team already or do you help them assemble it?
Yeah, we'll help them assemble. I think it's kind of all over. We have designers and architects that refer us that have worked with us and really enjoy that. And then we also have clients that have followed us through,
Do you prefer one or the other?
No, I don't. I mean, honestly, for me, the relationship's really important with our design team. So I always want to make sure that our team is understanding their communication with designers such as yourself, Michelle, and that it's a great experience. And I don't have any preference whether a client comes to us first. I think a lot of them do, but it's, again, it comes from all.
Yeah. Okay, so leave us with, what are some of your favorite projects or a favorite project that you have in the works right now? Talk to us. Give us some little details.
Sure. So we have Project Blow Your Mind that's going to finish, which is pretty fun.
And do you name them?
We actually work with our designer and our client to name them all.
Okay.
I don't think any of our architects have ever worked on the naming. So it's always the designer and the client to do. And we have some pretty fun names out there. But Project Blow Your Mind is pretty unique because we just finished the baseball field, the wiffle ball field built out to Wrigley Field in Chicago.
That's pretty wild.
And there's a lazy river and a trampoline barn and a tennis court and a volleyball court outside and a wedding concert area.
How big?
And the house is 20,000, and then you have these other structures, and it's an incredible, incredible build. The net zero one's awesome. In fact, after this podcast, there's a client, we're doing this amazing modern net zero build in Paradise Valley. This is going to be incredible. And, we have a unique one with Shay, with Studio McGee down that we're doing that's pretty fun. So we just have some pretty unique projects that have been a lot of fun. So
what are you looking forward to most for 2024 with AFT?
As I mentioned, we had our SWAT in January. I feel like today we just had a production meeting on Monday of this week. And I sat there and I'm like, we have the team now. We got the 22 people on board. They're committed. We have great direction. We know where we're going. And we have so many great processes that we're actually in the process of changing right now.
Yeah.
From IT to financials. And so come January, just to have a system that's going to be so automated for our design team, customers, and our own internal staff. So
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty excited.
Do you see any of your kids getting into construction?
I don't know. I hope so. I have 5 girls and a boy. So
any of the girls take interest yet?
Yeah. So my oldest daughter works at Habit Salon, down in Gilbert, that's pretty well-known salon. So she's pretty excited. She's always wanted to do hair and be at Habit. So she's there.
Yeah.
And then, but my second daughter, who's a senior now in high school, she's 17. She's going, actually she turns 18 in January, but she wants to go to Oregon and she wants to do environmental architecture. So she's going into architecture. Yeah. At least that's the plan right now. We'll see. Yeah. And then I have a freshman and then elementary. So it's there's still a little gap there, but right now my second seems to be looking a little bit in the field. So
I was going to say, any pressure on your son, given you were given that? And how old is he?
He's 8. Okay, so I'm sure he has some time, but for now it's busy with sports. And my oldest, who knows? I mean, she loves hair and stuff, but I could see her getting into interior design too, but you never know.
Thank you so much for your time. This was fun. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the tips. I love it.
Well, thanks for having me on, Michelle. It's awesome. And I can't wait. We're going to have a project together next year. I should have put that on for next year, too.
There it is. It's
going to happen. So,
all right. Thank you.
Thanks.
This has been Conversations Over Coffee, where we make casual conversations beautiful. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast to make sure you stay up to date on the upcoming episodes. Until the next cup.